Okay, so have you noticed this lately? Some of the world's biggest brands, the ones with enormous budgets, are just getting it so wrong. We're seeing cringeworthy ads, tone-deaf rebrands. It really feels like something is breaking in the world of marketing. Today, we're going to dig into why these failures are happening and what they tell us about the super risky relationship between automation and authenticity.
You know, it wasn't always like this. A bad campaign used to just kind of fizzle out. But now, oh man, a misstep doesn't just fail, it explodes. We're talking a global backlash in a matter of hours, it gets memed into oblivion, and all those brand reputation alerts start going wild. The speed and the sheer scale of failure have completely changed the game.
And that new reality is exactly where we're going to start. Welcome to Fails in the Digital Age. We're about to see how one single mistake can travel at the speed of TikTok, Reddit, and X, creating consequences that are not only immediate, but frankly, severe.
All right, to really get this, let's walk through some of the biggest offenders from the last couple of years. Consider this our Hall of Shame, where we'll look at some major brands that learned all of these lessons the hard way.
First up, a huge brand over in the Netherlands. They tried to get modern, right? Use AI for their big holiday ad campaign. The goal was innovation, but the results? Well, critics just slammed it as soulless and visually uncanny. It completely backfired. So what really went wrong? Well, the AI just couldn't replicate that warm, fuzzy, nostalgic feeling we all expect from holiday ads. It's a textbook case of chasing efficiency with technology, but totally forgetting that you just can't automate human connection. The disconnect was so bad the brand had no choice but to pull the whole campaign.
Next, let's talk about Bumble. They put up these billboards that tried to be funny by kind of poking fun at celibacy. Instead, it was called out for what it was, a textbook example of tone-deaf messaging that directly alienated the exact audience they claimed to empower. And the fallout was instant. This wasn't just a few bad articles. We're talking massive spikes in negative comments online and tons of reports of people actually deleting the app. This is what happens when you let data-driven edginess run the show without a real human gut check. The damage was real, and it was fast.
And then we have Jaguar's Copy Nothing rebrand. It looked very high fashion, super minimalist, but it had one giant problem. It left people completely scratching their heads, wondering what Jaguar even sells anymore.
Yeah, basically the campaign was so obsessed with looking like a fashion magazine that it, forgot to talk about the cars. In chasing this aesthetic that was probably flagged by some trend forecasting algorithm, it just threw away the brand's incredible heritage, muddled its message, and created a total brand storytelling disconnect. And last but not least, Cracker Barrel. They decided to update their logo and, well, they found out pretty quickly that for a brand built on nostalgia, a logo isn't just a graphic. This one tiny change managed to disrupt an emotional connection that took decades to build. The backlash on places like TikTok and Instagram was just swift and fierce. Customers felt like the brand was abandoning them, and the criticism wasn't just about how it looked, it was deeply emotional. It got so intense that Cracker Barrel actually had to backtrack and partially reverse the decision. So when you look at all these examples together, a very clear pattern starts to emerge. And this brings us right to the core of the problem. Let's call it the ghost in the machine. This is what happens when the relentless drive for automation starts to replace actual human storytelling. And the key term we need to understand here is over-automation. Now look, this isn't about getting rid of AI, it's about what happens when the pressure to cut costs and move faster leads brands to let algorithms take over the uniquely human stuff, like strategy, storytelling, and really understanding culture. It's a shortcut that seems tempting, but it often leads you right off a cliff. So how does this breakdown even happen? Well, it's a pretty clear four-step process. First, the human storytellers, the people with deep brand knowledge and cultural intuition, they get sidelined. Then, AI starts generating content at this incredible scale, but in the process, all that crucial context and cultural nuance just gets lost. And the final, inevitable step, the complete erosion of your audience's trust. And here are the common threads we see in all these failures. It's creative decisions being driven by automation, a total cultural misalignment, ignoring the power of your own brand's history, a serious lack of emotional resonance, and of course, not testing these ideas with enough diverse, real human beings before hitting launch.
Okay, now let's talk about the cost. Because a marketing blunder today isn't just about a wasted ad budget. It creates this cascade of damage that spreads everywhere.
The fallout really does hit every part of the business. We're talking sharp drops in conversion rates, a huge loss of audience engagement, long-term damage to the brand's value, and even negative hits to your search reputation and SEO. It's a mess.
And the impact on how people see you is just staggering. After a major misstep, the entire conversation just flips. Suddenly, all anyone is talking about is negative. It completely drowns out any positive messaging and basically poisons the brand's image online.
So, how do we fix this? That brings us to our final section, the human-centric solution. This is all about finding that sweet spot, that perfect balance between these powerful AI tools we have and authentic human-led storytelling.
This really leads us to the new rules for marketers today. AI has to be a tool that supports storytellers, not a replacement for them. Your brand's heritage should be treated like a strategic asset, not something to run away from. And maybe most importantly, you have to remember that every single campaign you launch now faces instant global judgment.
Which really leaves us with one final thought to chew on. As we lean more and more on technology and automation, is it possible that a brand's most powerful, most valuable asset is actually simply its humanity?